News Asia.
We have finished a difficult year. We have come through a difficult decade. But a new year has come. A new decade stretches before us. We don't quit. I don't quit. Let's seize this moment to start anew, to carry the dream forward, and to strengthen our union once more. Thank you.
A rallying call to the people of America in a changed political climate from when he first took on the U.S. presidency. With sagging popularity ratings, Barack Obama tried to hit the reset button there in his first official State of the Union address. Hello and welcome to 360. I'm Melissa Hyak. Our focus today, U.S. President Barack Obama's first State of the Union address, laying the foundation for his second year, and this follows his latest bruising political setback last week when the Democrats lost the Senate seat in Massachusetts and along with it the party's supermajority in Congress. So it's been a tough year for the president. Joining me in the studio tonight are Dr. Dawn Deagle, Dean of the S.P. Jain Center of Management, Professor Simon Tay, Chairman of the Singapore Institute of International Affairs, and Associate Professor Adele Demian from the Singapore Management University. So let's look at Barack Obama's performance last night. What do you think of it? Any unexpected shifts in his speech?
I think it met expectations. We expected him to connect with the population, with the middle class, and he did that very well by first bringing up the idea that people are angry about the bank bailout, and so he connected with that anger. And I like the metaphor he used about having a root canal. None of us like going to the dentist. And so he said that sometimes it's necessary. It might not be popular, but it's necessary. So I think it met expectations.
So do you guys agree that he has managed to reconnect with the people, which was apparently a huge priority for him in this speech?
I think he went a long way. I think what was amazing is in the way he did it. He's really threading a needle through a very complicated set of emotions that Americans are feeling and during a difficult time. So I believe he did, and he did it in a message of hope, but let's get to work. Have a very focused, very specific approach, not just general.
I'm a little more pessimistic. I think that he was always a great speaker. The challenge for him is that the political geography he's running through is so divided. And there's so much pain, when you see 10% unemployment, if you look at people not even looking for a job anymore, it's really 18%. And that has not changed by his eloquence. I think really, as you said, what he does now is to be so difficult. On one hand, you have people wanting to push ahead with sort of reform, a social package of great change. On the other hand, you have people saying, what about the deficit? We've got to trim this back, cut back the budget.
Well, I know people are talking about how it's the time for more deeds rather than words. But on the other hand, he did do something that other administrations have not done or other presidents have not done. He admitted his administration's shortcomings. Do you think that's a smart move?
Well, I think the reality is he's trying to regain faith in the message that he originally stormed into office in. And you got to remember, what's really important about Obama is he came in on a message of hope and change. Now, what's effective about that is that we all personally connect with that. What's difficult about that is we all have our own definition of what that means. So he is bound to disappoint lots of people along the way.
And some people have called it a credibility gap. In other words, he said certain things during the campaign, and then now when he's governing, there's a mismatch, there's a gap. And he has been called the great communicator, but building on what Simon just said, we need to hear about the great listener. He needs to go on a listening tour and really listen to what's going on in the ground, and that will go a long way to filling that credibility gap.
The challenge is who does he listen to? His Democratic core feel quite betrayed. I've met people in New York who have given lots of money to the Democrats to really support the campaign, and they feel that he's on healthcare, on Guantanamo, on a number of issues, he's just fallen so short. So a question of who does he listen to in a very divided country, difficult circumstances.
Well, at the end of the day, some would say, look, it's the empty stomachs that need to be filled, and a big change that people were hoping to see soonest could be the economy. So let's get to the meat of the speech, which he focused very much on the economy and jobs. Now, it's obvious from his speech that the key priority, if not the priority, in the coming year for him is employment. Let's hear what he has to say.
Jobs must be our number one focus in 2010, and that's why I'm calling for a new jobs bill tonight. I'm proposing that we take $30 billion of the money Wall Street banks have repaid and use it to help community banks give small businesses the credit they need to stay afloat.
So would you say that employment is the president's largest issue in trying to win back support or win over at least some critics?
Well, I think it's his most obvious issue. 10% or, as you say, 18% underemployment, I believe, is really front and center to the American people. When your neighbor or yourself or others are struggling, it's pretty hard. Americans are generous people, but not when they're struggling at their very moment that they're in. And so it's a number that people can stick in his face and one that he can't hide from.
Okay, well, he outlined some options to get Americans those jobs, things like boosting small businesses, as you heard there, investing in infrastructure, clean energy. How would you rate the strategy?
On the small businesses, I thought that what he's basically admitting is that pumping money into the banks hasn't really worked. It's not flowed further down. So he's got to take this special tax and create a special agency to try and get it out. So in that sense, it reveals that a lot of the original thinking about restoring strength in the financial center hasn't worked.
And the Wall Street banks, they lend to big business. And so for him to say we're going to cut the capital gains tax for investments into small business, as well as give a tax break for hiring in small businesses, and also giving a tax break for wage increases in small businesses, this gets the commercial banks and the community level to start lending again as well and gets credit flowing to those small businesses.
Well, the president is in a very tough position because he's acting seemingly against big businesses, at least big banks. But if the small businesses do not get the money they want, he's like, there's nothing he does that's correct, that can be right. So from moving from president can do no wrong, he's now, almost like a president can do no wrong.
I think on the big banks, he's got almost everyone on his side except the bankers.
You know, to explain that a little bit.
Well, no, I mean, it's just incredible to the average man. In fact, across the world, it's incredible how these bankers can reward themselves so richly and so quickly when other people are still suffering.
Yeah, the optics are horrid, and the executives from that run, unless they're going to just take the money and run, really made a big positioning mistake. The other part of his plan, though, was the regulatory issue. First, they had to save us from the precipice. At least that's the story. Many people believe that. The other part was the stimulus to get things going. Regulation would have to follow, but we sometimes are really short-sighted in how long these things take. Anything big that's a major change, incumbents are naturally going to be resistant to that change.
He did say when, right?
Yeah.
Now, another driver of economic growth the president mentioned was exports. Now, he says the goal is to double exports in 5 years. Again, a long-term plan. Do you think that's feasible, given that every country in the rest of the world is sort of recovering from the economic crisis?
I think it's quite ambitious. He also said it's going to create 2 million jobs. And you have to look at China. America can't do this in a vacuum. And right now, China has an overproduction, and they're trying to shift to more of a domestic consumption. China can't do that quickly either. So the United States, we can't sell enough iPhones and iPads to double exports in 5 years. And so China has also become the biggest importer of cars. And so is the United States going to start exporting cars to China now? I mean, most of the cars from Toyota, from Japan.
So how do you see this economic resolve, affecting trade relationships, tricky ones, especially with China?
Yeah. Really, in 2010, the year ahead, I think the danger of protectionism from a number of sources, trade issues, climate change issues, is really rising. I think the tires case that was earlier on, just an indication of things to come.
Okay, well, we have to go for a quick break now. Our studio head on 360, an issue that's proving to be a huge thorn in the Obama presidency side. Is he backing down after a bruising at the polls? We'll talk about that issue next.